All right, so this is the final group presentation for group 3. We have Lianne, Lahaie, Brad McGinnis, Scott McWhirter, Madelyn, Rudy, and Alex Liu here. And we're going to go into our final report for HBM 495. So this paper is going to be basically the background into the year 1 performance of the Poppy Ridge Hotel and Resort. And in the simulation performance, we definitely made some improvement, not as much as we would have liked. But overall, we did a pretty good job of making sure that our marketing techniques and everything went towards the initially picked out market segments that we wanted. And yeah, so we definitely made improvements from our 54% occupancy. Our goal was 75. We didn't quite hit it. We were close, especially in the months 6 to 8. But we did identify performance gaps and how we're going to tackle those performance gaps and how we're going to improve for year 2. So I'm going to hand it off to Scott for the year 1 performance.
Yeah, so for the year 1 performance, you know, like Lianne was saying, we definitely, you know, we did improve. You know, we started off, you know, taking on this hotel that was failing. And so we are, you know, it's clear that we definitely made decisions that improved the quality and performance of the hotel. However, there definitely are areas for improvement. The following performance measures that we tracked and analyzed and kind of adjusted throughout the 12 business periods were overall occupancy percentage, rooms revenue, total revenue, market share of rooms, market share of revenues, revenue per available room, and average daily rate. And these performance objectives revealed our yield management, operating efficiency, profit margin, and ultimately how well our hotel was performing in the market comparison to our competitors and our ownership goals. Yeah, so our year 1 represented a year of growth, but, you know, we definitely had areas for improvement. We exceeded in some areas, we met some areas, but we also fell short of our performance goals in some areas as well. So we fell short of our performance goals and objectives in occupancy percentage, total revenue, market share of rooms, or market share of revenue, sorry, and operating efficiency ratio. Although we underperformed in these areas, we did, you know, we fell short of these areas in comparison to our goals, but we did make the strategic marketing decisions as well as room allocation and pricing decisions that were accurate enough to show improvement in the overall, you know, scheme of our hotel and in our business model. We exceeded our performance objectives in rooms revenue and yield management. Our revenue per available room was $5 higher than expected year's end at $120. Our average daily rate was $192 in comparison to the expected year end of $175. And lastly, we met our performance objectives in market share of rooms and profit margin, which we're particularly proud about. After analyzing our performance and everything, you know, as you can see, you know, we definitely had rooms that or areas that we met, exceeded and underperformed. When our management team took over this challenging task of turning around the failing hotel, we were able to make serious improvements. A year can yield significant results. However, it was not enough for our management team to establish a consistent pattern, you know, to continue on this growth to meet our performance goals. In kind of in conclusion to that, we believe that if we had just a little bit more time. You know, if we had another year to continue to make these marketing decisions and room allocation and pricing decisions, we firmly believe that we would have met our performance goals and even exceeded these performance goals to, you know, potentially set higher standards for us in the following year. And I'll pass it off.
All right. Thank you for that really good introduction to our year one performance. Moving on, we're going to go over some graphs and illustrations of our year one performance. We have occupancy performance, and just kind of a reminder for these graphs, this is a full description graph that has not only our performance, but it has hotels 1 and 2 as well, and it has our objective as well as the market average, the norm, and performance objective. So as you can see, it's a lot of lines to deal with, but we have a table or graph, sorry, for each objective and how it fluctuated throughout each month. And as you can see, we only took the first 10 months, as that's what we were told to do. And then we took all of the data and turned it into these wonderfully put together graphs. And after putting these graphs together, the major performance gaps that really shined through were rooms revenue, total revenue, RevPAR, occupancy were the main 4 that really stuck out to us as a team. And it's not really coincidence that it would be those 4, because those all kind of work together. You know, you can't get enough revenue without occupancy, and you can't get a good ADR without a good revenue. So anyways, while everything was fairly consistent in growth, we did have a pretty significant drop in the last few months of our managing of this hotel. So as you can see, especially on some of these where it really dropped down during month 8, that was not a good month for us. But in the months before that, pretty much 4 through 7 were small increments, but significant growth, especially from the really, really dire condition that the hotel was in. So moving on to the 3 critical performance gaps to solve. Hold on, this did not. There we go. I'm going to pass it off to Maddie to go over kind of a more broken down version of the performance gaps.
Okay, from observing our top 5 performance gaps, our top 3 most critical gaps were definitely occupancy percentage, rooms revenue, and total revenue. Occupancy percentage was chosen as one of our most critical gaps because it's not in an acceptable range compared to the other hotels where we ended at just 62%. Another one was rooms revenue. That one we chose as one of our top critical ones because our performance was so far below our goal of $2 million, where we made only $100,000 in the end. Our goal for total revenue at Poppy Ridge was $4 million, and we generated $3 million and almost $500,000. The reason we chose this as another critical performance gap is because if we had performed at or above our goal, then it may have offset the rooms revenue disparity. As we observed these performance gaps and brainstormed the reasons why they may have been so critical in the end rankings or performance, the main conclusion we came to is that we probably just didn't invest enough in corporate business meetings and corporate contracts, as well as business segments in general, which is evident based when you look at the occupancy percentage by segment. This surprised us a little bit because the business segments were a target for a hotel, and this led us to believe that we probably just didn't invest enough money or carefully enough into the proper amenities that are important to these segments.
All right. So as stated by Maddie, the three main performance gaps that we had was occupancy, room revenue, and total revenue. Performance gaps are usually caused when a hotel falls below the objective that was set at the beginning of the year. And these three, as stated before, didn't meet the objectives that we set earlier in the year. And then according to the market shares of the graphs that we have below here, we can see based off of them that business, corporate contracts, affiliate travelers were just slowly decreasing throughout the year, while our families, international travelers, were still above our market shares. And so, yeah, as you can see, just from the month 1 through all the way through the 11th month, our hotel had a higher percentage in actual market shares than in market shares by positioning alone. And compared to the other hotels, we received more market shares than we would have than if none of the hotels made any of the marketing decisions themselves, such as I stated before, corporate, families, and international travelers were all higher in the end than our position than if we were to do marketing alone. But compared to our business, small business, and business meetings, they were lower than what we set our objectives to. And then you can see below in our positioning maps, we did start off a little rough, setting our rates a little too high, which really greatly affected the quality of the rooms and the quality of service of our hotel. But then you can see just slowly throughout the year, just by playing around with the rates till we found the right rate around 160 to 165. It's where we were greatly exceeding in quality and then still being able to make higher room revenue compared to the other hotels. And now I'm going to pass it off to Brad.
So my section, I'm going to be talking about the business action for the next period, which is the next year. My main kind of business action is going to be focusing on occupancy, and the main reason for that is just with all the improvements made throughout the year. I mean, occupancy is the most important thing about a hotel. We have a lot of rooms, 500 room hotel, but to be honest, we have a goal of about 85 and 90% on occupancy for each year. And at the beginning, we started running the hotel and seeing where we need to make improvements. We chose certain segments for the hotel that we wanted to focus on. And as you can see in the graph, I took a screenshot of the best month we had throughout the year, which is month 4. And like we said before, we started off really well in the year, but then we kind of hit a drop. And I think that really came after this month. And as you can see in the graph, the most popular segments for us were association meetings, small business, and we wanted to do families. That didn't get quite to where we expected it to be, but it was still over the competitive set. And I think after this month, I think we didn't change what we were trying to do. And one of the things I go in when you're reading through my section is that we didn't focus enough on the corporate contract. But at the same time, you're only still getting 5% from corporate contract for your hotel usually. But it is a good idea just to keep, in terms of money and where you want to put your money for the market share for determining your segments, I think we didn't put enough into corporate contract. And with corporate contract, it's a lot of guaranteed reservations. So once we have a lot of corporate contracts with a lot of different companies, then we kind of see a little bit more guaranteed reservations down the road, whether we have them or not. So I think after month 4, we just didn't change our objectives a little bit more. We didn't tweak them enough where we need to see the optimal amount of results that we wanted. So I think next year we put a little bit more money into the corporate contract while at the same time trying to maintain where the occupancy is for other segments such as small business and association meetings. Because those are important too, but it's something we want, but we need to even it out a little bit in terms of distributing money to these different market segments. Overall, like I said, just trying to get all occupancy segments up so we get the most occupancy percentage we can get. And I'll pass it back to Lianne.
All right, so as my team said, just coming to a conclusion, the hotel was trash when we got it. So we did make a lot of improvement. I think some of our objectives were definitely, I don't want to say far-fetched, but we didn't maintain enough consistency in improvement. And our design in our original strategic business plan was clearly not enough to recover and improve each objective to where we wanted it to be. However, it did really improve quite consistently throughout the year despite the drop. So with this data collected and the lessons learned in the teamwork, I think we could put something together for the next year that could end up being really successful just based on what we know now. And like Brad said, we didn't really pay attention to the corporate contract segment, and that probably affected us more than we realized. So with that in mind, we're going to move forward and make these improvements and hopefully get our occupancy up to an acceptable level and get our revenues to an acceptable level and become a thriving hotel. So I'm going to end it there. Hope you enjoyed this presentation, and we're looking forward to the feedback. Thanks.